Pretty much there. So at this point, it's making sure all the components come together for today. So all the bulk prep kind of gets broken down to be done individually for service today, meaning that everything's kind of at its best when it goes out. It's the advantage of doing these single sittings.
What are the challenges working in such a tight kitchen?
Oh, you just got to be efficient. It's all a time and motion study all the time. You got to make sure, yeah, you're not taking up more space than you need to. Everything's where it should be. Yeah, weekend brunches is everything. You know, it's a lot of restaurants survive on brunch trade.
How's it going, guys? Come on in. What was the name of the booking?
So we're starting off with a little caviar service. So we've taken some wild blackberries, made them into caviar pearls. It's served with creme fraiche, it's cultured here in-house, and a little pikelet. So it's kind of play on that classic pikelet with whipped cream and jam, but a little bit more on the savoury side. Toast time. So 2 types of our sourdough, and then this butter that's been whipped with preserved truffle through it. And it's kind of a reference, so everyone who dines here gets our bread. So it's kind of a brunch reference to that bread course. And we go on to our toast, which is just our sourdough. So our sourdough is really important to the restaurant. It's a starter. I started for my mum 16 years ago. We've served that bread every single day. We've been open for the last 8 years. 2 different types, so a classic white and then one that's based on lewana, using purple dawn kumara instead of fermented potato, but along those lines. We toast it and then we serve it with a truffle butter for Boujee, because this is Boujee Brunch. It's got to be some Boujee elements in there. We intentionally create this situation where people are also sitting communally, so they're going to be dining with people maybe they don't know, which they know in advance that's going to happen, and just to get that chat going, to get people having a bit of fun and interacting and having that real, I guess, social connection, you know, especially given the way the last 2.5, 3 years have been with COVID and separation of people. The idea of hospitality is bringing people together and letting them enjoy experiences with others.
2 courses in,
Yep.
What's next?
Congee next. So, like I said, yeah, the whole thing, this is one of my philosophies with food, right, is make it easy so you can make it good. We don't try to complicate things, we don't make it too difficult for ourselves, so we know that every single person is going to have a great time. But it means we can better, like, happy people make happy food, makes happy customers.
Yeah, makes sense.
I used to open the ramen shop here in Wellington.
Oh, yeah.
10 years ago. No, so my secret with it is making sure they go from boiling water to ice cold water. And that pops the air bubble that's already in there.
Yeah.
So I actually find that more consistent than puncturing the shell.
Right.
But each to their own, you know? Exactly. Shall we continue with the puns?
I'm super excited for today. It's going to be excellent.
Great yolks.
Great yolks.
Lay them on me. Time. Good rice.
Yeah.
Time.
Like just in one spot?
Yeah, letting the rice do its thing.
Yep.
And just letting it come through. Yep. Good base flavours. I always like to put like really finely chopped ginger through, and that tells me as much as anything when it's cooked, because it kind of starts to break down almost, you know? I guess taking breakfast from somewhere else a bit more, so we do a congee. The congee is flavoured with kawakawa. Otherwise it's really classic. We do a cured egg on it, some toasted sesame and some spring onion. Next is peanut butter toast, which I guess is something that everyone kind of knows. Except that's not what we're doing at all. So that's the kind of potato peanut curry, just kind of curry-ish flavours but made like a hash, like a breakfast hash. Hollandaise on that. So we do the hollandaise in a water bath for this to lighten it. It also means that the eggs themselves never go above 70 degrees. a hollandaise, and then we've taken some of our sourdough, inoculated it with Aspergillus orzai, which is makes it into a koji. Koji being normally a inoculated rice that's used to make miso and sake, things like that. So real funk and different flavours in there, some cool textures as well. We find the ingredient and look to best represent it in the way that we serve it. And so that makes us micro-seasonal because we're only working with what's actually available then and there, unless we've preserved it from its best state. We have zero irrigation, zero fertilizers, zero synthetic inputs. Like, it's all designed to be regenerative and natural. And that, again, comes back to keeping things really simple because we're using things at their best quality.
Where are we up to now?
Muesli, nice and fresh fruit, yogurt. Kind of in the place that we'd do either like a cleansing or cheese course on a tasting menu normally. After that, kind of a muesli that's flipped upside down, so we've got some fresh fruit, a whipped yogurt, and then a granola that's been toasted extra to make it really crunchy and kind of fine as a crumb that goes over the top. With this sort of event, what you're trying to do is make sure the ingredient as you serve it is at its peak, right? So as it hits the plate, or actually hits at the table for the customer, it's at its peak. So over the last few days, there's been some dishes that take process, they take multiple days to make, things like the bread koji, takes a week to make. Whereas for today, it's all about we're getting things to the appropriate temperature. We want to cook most things from room temperature where possible when we go to cook, because that's just more accurate. So what we're doing is lining up all the ingredients now. We're bringing together the collective work of the last few days or longer and trying to just get it to its very peak as it goes out to the table.
Ooh, that's a good question. Why do I enjoy doing what I do? I derive a lot of energy from people, from being around people, from like serving people in general. And there's something profound about the nature of our industry, hospitality, exists almost exclusively in other people's free time. And what I mean by that is like we're working when other people aren't, right? They're here, they're spending their hard-earned disposable income and their hard-earned, just like free time, both of which is increasingly more valuable every day, every year. And they've chosen to spend that with us. And so I really, really thoroughly enjoy being able to impact that positively, right? And honoring that is a big part of what we do. He's managed to capture the nostalgia of this next little plate so well. It's pretty special, man.
Next up is cereal milk ice cream with coffee. So that coffee is both a coffee syrup and a little coffee twirl. Cool. So this is just straight coffee with some brown sugar through it as it's extracted. This is a vegan ice cream recipe that we've just come up with recently. So it's got a texture of a really nice ice cream.
Yeah, wow.
But there's no dairy or eggs in this.
So what's the substitute?
So because it's creating, this is a cereal milk ice cream, so it tastes like cornflakes, or the milk left over from cornflakes. It's basically porridge is the base. When you make porridge, if you leave it, it gets kind of like slimy in a way.
Yeah.
That's what gives this its nice creamy rich texture. Again, it's kind of letting the ingredients drive the direction of what we do. They won't tell you, I normally talk twice as much of this, I'm the loudest.
There's no need to understate.
Basically the flavour of when you have cornflakes and the milk that's left in the bottom of your bowl after you've eaten all the cornflakes, that's the flavour of the ice cream there. Growing up in rural New Zealand, we lived an hour away from the nearest town. Supermarket trips were not regular, and so living off the land was normal. And it's that sense of place, that sense of connection to a place. It takes food from just being sustenance and allows it to be so much more. Focusing seasonally as well allows us to keep things relatively simple because ingredients are always at their best in their season when they're at their best. And for me as a chef, I now look at planting a seed as part of the preparation of a dish. as well as going out and foraging from around Wellington City itself, and letting the ingredients that are of its place. Taūrangawaewae, the place we stand, is a massive influence in terms of the food that we serve. And then to finish off, just a single bite is a classic rice bubble cake, but with a little bit of thyme caramel on it. It just gives it a little bit of that hillside element where we quite often throw herbs and things like that into sweet ingredients. Food and memory has such a huge connection, like smell especially, which is a huge part of taste, triggers memories. And so having these little moments where people, if you can take someone somewhere, that's just cool, you know, it's fun. So that, yeah, I think that's just really nice. Like, I like both the physical and intellectual challenge of not, like, you can just do something, but do something with meaning, do something with intent, do something with thought. That's, to me, that's my personal challenge that I like and enjoy and want to get into. It's not just skimming the surface of things. It's yeah, going in depth, and the reward of that is huge. Yeah.